Good morning. This episode is all about tax during COVID. Stay tuned for a great episode with tips. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minutes, episode 304, COVID tax breaks, especially for home offices. We have special guest Harry, director at Chartered, Page Harrison and Co. Chartered Accountants, and Mark Novak. Good morning, gents.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hey, Harry. What an interesting topic, guys. There's so much due to people working from home. There are so many benefits tax-wise that people are missing, and they are absolute free hit. They're a claim that if you forget to claim, you will never see that potential back again. So, guys and girls, we've got an incredibly smart accountant here willing to give away free advice, which is very rare. Harry, thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here, Mark. Yeah.
Do you want to just give us a bit, like how long a bit about yourself, Harry, how long you've been doing it, where you are and what you sort of specialise in, and then we'll get into it? Sure.
So I've been working in business services tax for 15 years, and we currently operate at Nelson's Point, Sydney's North Shore, a chartered firm there. And
so anyone out there who should be watching this, what sort of good, what notifying people of?
So if you're a salary wage earner like majority of the population and you've set yourself up at home, you've probably been working from home since March this year. So there's a lot of time that you're spending outside of the office and you're working at home. So stay tuned because you need to know what methods apply to you to claim the best sort of tax breaks to minimise your tax payable at year end.
Because Harry, I find there's a bit of a disconnect between, and I mean this with utmost respect to the accounting industry, but I think, if an accountant has a couple hundred clients, 200, 300, 400 clients, I find as a client, I often don't know what to ask, or I don't know what to push for or what to claim. So I'm sure my accountant has sent me 30 pages or 50 pages regularly to read that I don't read, so I don't know. But I just wish my accountant would poke me more and say, hey, have you claimed this? Hey, have you claimed that? And that's a little bit about, I guess, what today is about, just to poke people and remind people of what they potentially could claim.
Yeah, look, our firm was set up in 1961 with the impression of providing a unique personalised service to clients. And that's what we do. We sort of look at your situation and give you advice specific to your situation. So you're right. I mean, people don't have time. Accountants don't really have time to be discussing every single situation with each client at length. So it's important that these videos come up that people can watch and apply to their situation.
Yeah, right.
So where would you like to start? What's probably the biggest thing that's happening now with COVID, the biggest change, something that probably would impact the most amount of people, and what it is?
Yeah, so the biggest change obviously is working from home. So what can people claim? So let's just say you're working from home from March, and you've got all these receipts. You've purchased a desk, you've purchased a lamp, you've purchased a monitor like everybody else, even a chair and so forth. And you've set yourself up in an office. That's critical to set yourself up in a designated work area, because that's one of the points where you can actually claim the actual method of receipts. Because if you don't have a designated work area in your house, so if you're working out of the living room or the kitchen bench top because it's convenient for you, you can't really apply the actual method. So all of the invoices that you purchased during the year are irrelevant because you don't have a designated work area.
So really just trying to identify an area, like a landing area that you can say on a floor plan, this is my area, it's this big, or a spare room, label it. So would you identify, do they ask for like a floor plan, or is it just you may need it to show it? But
no, you don't necessarily need a floor plan, but you do need to demonstrate that you've set yourself up with a desk, you've got shelving, you've got your files there. You know, it belongs to you. Nobody comes and goes regularly, so it's your office. That's the definition.
And can you claim sort of all of those expenses? Is it a minimum max rule of thumb, or is it sort of just?
Yeah. So with the furniture and fittings, so there's a threshold of $300. So anything over $300 needs to be depreciated over its life, so over time. But anything less than 300 and it's for your work office, then you could claim it outright, entirely.
Depreciation 5 years?
Well, it depends on the item. Each item has a different rate. So best to speak to an advisor, and we can guide you in that. So.
And
okay,
that's right.
Sorry, retailers have a really good way of expressing giving money back or getting money back. The tax department doesn't. So retailers call it cash back, or retailers, like instant rebate. Whereas effectively this, hey?
All these catchy terms and marketing logos and slogans.
Yeah. Now, the ATO is doing the same thing. It's a cashback, it's an instant rebate sometimes or whatever, but it's not marketed that well and it's not understood widely. But this is what you're talking about today. You're pretty much saying, guys, we can give you cash in your back pocket virtually, within the next financial year straight away. But all the people, it's about having the knowledge of actually what is claimable and not claimable, which we're going to drill down on further today.
Exactly right. Yeah.
They don't have to be the employee to get these benefits. It's just under their normal tax back what they do. They don't have to be set up as a company or an ABN or any extra sort of hassle that way, do they?
No, you don't need an ABN or a company set up. You just need to. You can be a salary wage earner and working from home, and the deductions apply to you against the income that you've been paid from your employer. So yeah, there's no need for an ABN or company set up.
Perfect.
Okay, now if can we use a real life working example? I've just set up a monitor for $200, a desk for $300, a chair for $300, and anyway, I've got up to $1,000. I've spent about $1,000 on my home office now. I've designated the area. I've sticky taped it out and told the kids they can't go within that area. In my head, I know that area. My wife knows that area. How much of that $1,000 that I've spent am I going to get back into my pocket when I claim it this financial year, if I do it proper and effectively?
Sure. So the monitor is less than $300, so you could write that off entirely. The furniture and the desk is not less than $300, so you're going to have to depreciate that. But the real tax break or benefit comes back to what your personal tax rate is. So it depends on what your assessable income is at the time. Yeah.
Okay, so just
if you've got
to
no
elaborate,
tax to pay, then there's really no benefit to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to break this down a little bit, guys and girls who are watching, if you know how much you spend on tax, for instance, you may spend 30% of your gross earnings on tax, or 40%, or whatever that may be. That's the amount that you're talking about getting back.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that will really appeal to a lot of people who are an employee. Where do we want to talk about a business owner? Because I know the breaks sort of open up widely with an employee. Or where do you want to go?
Before we do, can I just, that $1,000 example, Harry, we just spoke about?
Yep.
Can I just finish off on that? So I earn $80,000 a year. I pay, what percentage tax would I pay if I'm earning $80,000 a year?
Oh, it's 37.5% roughly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've just gone out and spent $1,000, and assuming that I could claim all of those things. I know one was over $300, but assuming I could claim all of those things,
Yeah.
I will get back out of the $1,000 I spent
Your tax rate, correct.
$375.
Correct. Yeah.
That's huge. Can you imagine a shop saying you're going to get that back?
Big saving, yeah.
And we all know a lot of people have done it. So a lot of people are in this position. So it's really it's keeping your receipts. Now, what happens if they bought it before COVID? If they bought it last Christmas, they bought it a couple of months before. They could still do it? Yep.
No, it won't matter.
Okay. Now, what else? Yeah. So what else do you want to speak about? Do you want to go now that's a real sort of entry level, your mum and dad's working from home. Do we want to talk about the benefits now for a business owner running a business who buys machinery, cars, that type of stuff now?
I've got one more question.
Yes.
Can I ask one more about this furniture? What about, okay, we've just done the bread and butter 101. Okay, like we've given the example of, someone's been pretty modest. They've gone and they're working from home the last 6 months, and they've spent $800 on their fit out, 500, 1,000 on their fit out. How ballistic can someone go in their home office fit out? How like crazy can they go? Can they go out and buy a conference table worth $3,000 from the White Room in Narrabeen?
Or a $2,000 chair?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no real limit to it. As long as you can demonstrate that it's for your work office, then yeah, there's no real limit. But when you're looking at things like artwork on the walls and paintings on the walls, for tens of thousands of dollars, then it's obviously going to come up with grey areas. So you just got to be wary of that. Yeah.
So where do people go wrong with this in your experience?
Yeah, where they go wrong is they don't have the receipts. They can't demonstrate payment has been made out of their bank account because they can't find the actual payment. They don't have invoices, all of that. So when they don't have that, they have to revert to cents per hour method, which is a much lower claim for them working from home. So, from March, you could claim 80 cents in the hour that you've worked from home. That's, you don't have any receipts whatsoever. But that's where people are going wrong. They don't have the supporting information.
Okay, and if they do pay cash, make sure you get that receipt and keep it. They don't have to demonstrate how they got the cash. They just have
it's just to demonstrate. This is an expense deduction, so no one's going to ask you where the money came from. It's understanding where the money's gone, where what invoices you've been provided with, and so forth. Okay.
Because I'm a bit of a nerd, for retaining receipts, is there any app that you recommend as an accountant that you can say, this is what my clients do and love? I personally use a thing called Evernote, and if ever I want to keep a receipt for tax purposes, I email it to my Evernote account or I scan it to my Evernote account. What apps do you recommend?
Yeah, look, we scan sort of files for employees on our system, so it's on our server. So we don't really advise of any apps. I'm not aware of any apps to be honest, but we scan all the receipts on our system, so we've got records of them. So it takes away the sort of headache for clients to make sure they've kept the receipts because we've got them for them.
So does the client send it to you straight away? They buy
they send the receipts to us when the return's ready to be lodged. So we keep them all on our server.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll lose that shit.
Yeah, by the time it comes a year around.
Yeah.
So I think
forget about it. I lose it. I do that. So
send it to your accountant straight away.
Would your accountant get angry if you did that?
No, not really. No, they would just save it straight into your file or folder and record it for you. So
That's a good. Yeah.
I reckon that's a really good. It doesn't sound like anything's been invented, but I think to do that and remember that to retain, because I think a lot of clients do wonderful deductions, but you just simply forget about it.
Or
and it would be great
as well. Setting up a Dropbox account for your personal work office costs or tax receipts is a good idea too.
That's a good hack.
Yeah, and you can share it. You could share your Dropbox link.
That's
with
right. That's what people do.
Yeah.
They share the Dropbox account with their accountant, and they can both access it at the same time.
Or a WhatsApp group, Mark. We love our WhatsApp groups. We use I got about 200 groups on WhatsApp. So create a WhatsApp group with your account, take the photo, install it.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. But also, it just reminded me there was an app that I stopped using because I went over to a great accounting package. But when I was on MYOB, I struggled with what we're talking about. I used an app called Expensify, and Expensify read the receipt, and Expensify added up the monthly receipts, and then by the end of the financial year, I had 12 added up months, and I gave that to my accountant and said, here's the link, and it gave him all of the receipts and all of the money added up for that year.
Yeah.
Expensify. So guys, tips from today: if you do not want to forget about tax deductions, streamline it, or even use, and you know what I also do, Harry, I use one credit card for deductions. If I know something's deductible, I'll use that credit card.
That's right. Yeah.
And if it's personal, I'll use the other credit card, and then I'll have 12 credit card statements to give to my accountant at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Mike, because we normally do 15 minutes, do you want to go a little longer to get in more detail? Do you want to do another one with a higher level of conversation, maybe for business owners? I think this was a big market, on a very simple structure, but really informative for people to bring it aware. But as you know, there's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
If Harry's up for it, I wouldn't mind, and I'd love to know people who are watching if they've got any questions.
We could do another session for business owners at another time, sure.
Yeah. So guys and girls, if there's any questions you want to ask Harry, feel free to ask away now. We're even going to dedicate another series to business owners, depending on those questions that come through.
Because we didn't get to the renting the room out or the land tax, or could that be done in the next 2-3 minutes? So
what do you mean rent your room out?
Renting a room out.
Quickly about renting the room. So depending on who you're renting the room out to.
Because I just had that in one of your email, Harry, renting a room out to family, and land tax. What is it? How is it calculated?
Yeah, so with land tax, it's assessed on the 31st of December. So there's a threshold of 755,000. So excluding your main home. So if you've bought investment property over the last year, and you know you own $1 million in property or over 755, you need to register with the land tax office because it's a self-assessment system. You don't want a nasty letter from them later on to say that you haven't registered for land tax. So it's important you do that, and we can help you with that if you need assistance.
Perfect. Alrighty, I think that's a wrap. Anything else you want to add, Mark? Harry?
Yeah, I want to do one. I want to do one on the next session. I want to do one with you, Harry, on renting rooms out at home.
Yeah.
The tax effectiveness, because we can even tie that back to your home office. The home office, you could rent part of the area of your house to your home office to minimise your tax.
Yeah, that's happening a lot with COVID too, with people struggling to earn extra income, and the yields are low too, so they're looking at additional ways to raise revenue. So yeah, certainly.
Perfect. Awesome.
Alrighty. Thank you, gents. Thanks everyone for watching.
Harry, thanks for your time. Thanks for your time today, you legend. Hopefully we help some people save some money.
No problem. Look to catch up again.
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Thanks, legend.
See you guys.
Cheers, man.